In the bustling heart of Lagos, where dreams are as big as the city itself, and lives flow as smoothly as the waters of the Third Mainland Bridge, we meet Chioma, a 34-year-old fashion designer who has lived through her fair share of Lagos drama. Having navigated the chaos of the city for years, Chioma is now juggling the pressure of getting married, especially with her mother constantly reminding her that her biological clock is ticking. But this isn't just another Lagos love story. Chioma's journey is about to take an unexpected turn, where love and betrayal are intertwined, and dark secrets lurk just beneath the surface. Chioma, although pressured by her family to settle down, had kept her standards high. Lagos men were smooth talkers, and she wasn't about to fall for any Lagos big boy lies. But then came Emeka, the handsome, well-spoken, and seemingly successful businessman she met at a networking event. He swept her off her feet with his charm, promising her the world. The relationship moved quickly, and within 6 months, they were house hunting. One evening, after yet another frustrating day of traffic and customer demands at her fashion store in Ikeja, Chioma received a call from Emeka. He had found their dream home in Lekki Phase 1. Curious and excited, Chioma agreed to visit the house, though something in Emeka's tone felt off. The house was a beautiful duplex, tucked away in a quiet corner of Lekki. As they walked through the house, Emeka whispered, "This place has everything we need." Chioma felt uneasy. The house was too quiet, too eerie. The air seemed heavy with a presence she couldn't explain. Still, Emeka assured her it was perfect, and with that, they signed the lease. Little did Chioma know, the house came with more than just its walls and roof, it had a past. The first few nights in the house were peaceful, but things took a strange turn. Late at night, Chioma began hearing whispers, muffled conversations coming from the walls. At first, she chalked it up to stress, but the whispers became louder. They seemed to call her name in the dead of night. One evening, while preparing dinner, a neighbor, Mama Kemi, an elderly woman who had lived in the area for years, knocked on her door. "My daughter, are you all right?" she asked. Chioma, puzzled, responded, "Yes, Ma." "Why do you ask?" Mama Kemi's expression darkened. "This house, it has a history. People who live here, they never stay long. Be careful." Chioma laughed it off, attributing it to old wives' tales, but deep inside, she felt a chill run down her spine. That night, the whispers turned into cries, agonizing screams that jolted her awake. She shook Emeka, but he was sound asleep, oblivious to the eerie sounds filling the room. Determined to get to the bottom of it, Chioma began digging into the history of the house. She soon discovered that the house had once belonged to a couple involved in dark rituals. They had mysteriously disappeared, leaving behind a legacy of fear that haunted the property. People whispered that their spirits still roamed the house, searching for peace. As Chioma delved deeper, she found out something even more terrifying. Emeka had known about the house's dark history but kept it from her. Anger boiled within her as she confronted him. "Why didn't you tell me about the house's past, Emeka?" she demanded. Emeka hesitated, his face pale. "I didn't think it mattered. It's just a house, Chioma." Chioma's trust in Emeka began to crumble, and the once perfect relationship began to feel like a lie. She couldn't shake the feeling that Emeka was hiding more than just the house's history from her. One fateful afternoon, Chioma received a message on her phone from an unknown number. The message read, "Do you know where Emeka really is?" Her heart raced. Suspicion grew. She decided to follow him the next time he left for his business meetings. To her shock, she trailed him to an upscale restaurant on Victoria Island, where he was laughing and holding hands with another woman, Bimp, a young, stunning woman with an aura of confidence. Chioma's heart shattered. She stood frozen, watching as the man she thought she knew lavished affection on another woman. This wasn't just a fling. Emeka had been living a double life. In true Lagos fashion, Chioma decided it was time to confront him. She stormed into the restaurant and made a scene. Emeka tried to play it off, but Lagos girls don't keep quiet when they're wronged. "Who is this? Is this the business meeting you've been attending?" Chioma's voice echoed across the restaurant. Emeka stammered, while Bim stared, wide-eyed, not knowing what to say. The confrontation left Emeka scrambling to explain himself, but Chioma was done listening. She walked out, heartbroken but determined to find out the full truth about Emeka. Later that night, Chioma returned to the house to pack her things. As she gathered her belongings, she stumbled upon a hidden compartment in Emeka's closet. Inside was a collection of items, pictures of Bimp, documents in her name, and worst of all, a deed to the house. Emeka had been planning to sell the house and move in with Bimp behind Chioma's back. Her hands trembled as she pieced it all together. Emeka had never intended to build a life with her. The house, the promises, it was all part of a bigger lie. But as she stood there, processing the betrayal, the house seemed to come alive. The walls began to pulse with a strange energy, and the whispers returned, louder than ever. This time, the voices were clear: "Leave. Or you'll never leave at all." Panicked, Chioma grabbed her bags and bolted for the door. As she fumbled with the keys, the lights flickered, and the air grew thick with a presence, one that felt malevolent, as though the house itself was trying to keep her there. She heard footsteps approaching from behind her, but when she turned, no one was there. In a desperate rush, she managed to unlock the door and sprint outside, the whispers fading as she reached the street. Mama Kemi was waiting, her eyes filled with concern. "You did the right thing, my daughter. That house, it takes those who are too blind to see." Chioma left Emeka and the house behind, vowing never to fall for such deceit again. She moved in with a friend in Suralere, where she slowly began to rebuild her life. The experience had changed her. She was wiser now, less trusting of smooth talkers and false promises. But as she lay in bed one night, trying to sleep, her phone buzzed. A message popped up from an unknown number: "You can't escape the lies." Chioma's heart skipped a beat. She quickly deleted the message, but the fear remained. Was it over, or was this just the beginning? The following days were a blur for Chioma. She tried to move on from the harrowing experiences of the past weeks: Emeka's betrayal, the haunted house, and the unsettling message on her phone. Yet, she couldn't shake off the lingering unease. Each time her phone buzzed, her heart skipped a beat, and her thoughts raced back to that ominous text: "You can't escape the lies." Chioma's close friend, Edeora, noticing her increasingly anxious state, decided to intervene. "Girl, you can't keep this to yourself. We need to figure out what's going on," she urged during one of their many conversations at her Suralere apartment. Edeora suggested visiting a local spiritual guide. Though Chioma was skeptical, desperation drove her to agree. That evening, they set off to meet Baba Ebeji, a renowned seer in Mushin who was rumored to have helped many uncover hidden truths. The tiny, dimly lit room Baba Ebeji operated from smelled of incense and aged wood. He motioned for them to sit, his eyes studying Chioma carefully. "What brings you to my presence?" he asked, his voice deep and resonant. Chioma hesitated for a moment, but Edeora nudged her forward. "I've been experiencing strange things, and I don't know what's happening. I need answers." Baba Ebeji nodded knowingly and began his rituals, chanting softly and sprinkling what seemed like fine powder into a bowl of water. After what felt like an eternity, he finally spoke. "The house you lived in is cursed, tied to the spirits of the couple who once performed dark rituals there. But your entanglement runs deeper. The man you loved, Emeka, is not who he says he is." Chioma's skin prickled with fear. "What do you mean?" she whispered. "The spirits have been disturbed by lies and betrayal. Emeka has made pacts, agreements that go far beyond this life. He didn't choose that house by accident. It was meant to trap you." Baba Ebeji's revelation shook Chioma to her core. The man she thought she knew was involved in things far darker than she could have ever imagined. The house, the lies, and the eerie presence she had felt, it all made sense now. But there was more. Baba Ebeji looked at her, his expression grim. "The spirits are not done with you. Emeka's betrayal has drawn them to you. Until the truth is fully exposed, they will haunt you every step." Chioma felt her pulse quicken. "How do I stop this?" The seer handed her a small pouch filled with protective charms and whispered, "Go back to the house. The truth lies within those walls. You must confront it to free yourself." With Edeora by her side, Chioma returned to the cursed house in Lekki. The air felt heavier as they approached the front gate, and Chioma's stomach churned with dread. Her heart raced as they stepped inside the house, which now seemed even more sinister in the fading evening light. The interior was eerily silent. The once beautiful home now felt like a tomb, haunted by memories of deceit and pain. "Are you sure about this?" Edeora whispered, glancing nervously around. Chioma nodded, clutching the protective charms Baba Ebeji had given her. "We need to find whatever Emeka was hiding." They started searching through the house. It didn't take long for them to uncover a hidden room concealed behind a bookshelf in the study. Inside was a small shrine, candles, strange symbols, and photographs of Chioma. Her heart lurched in her chest. Emeka had been performing rituals, using her as part of some dark pact. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed through the house. The temperature dropped, and the air became stifling. Edeora screamed, and they both froze as they saw the shadow of a figure moving in the hallway, tall and menacing. It wasn't human. The shadow moved closer, and Chioma instinctively stepped back. The air around them crackled with malevolent energy. The figure came into view, Emeka. But this wasn't the man she once loved. His eyes were hollow, and his face was twisted in a grotesque grin. "Chioma," he said in a voice that sounded both familiar and completely foreign. "You never should have come back." Chioma stood her ground, despite her fear. "What have you done?" she demanded, her voice shaking but firm. Emeka laughed, a cold, empty sound. "You were part of the plan, Chioma. You were always meant to be part of this. But now, you're too late to stop it." The shadows around him grew darker, and the walls of the house seemed to close in on them. Edeora clutched Chioma's arm, but they couldn't move. Something was holding them in place. "I made my choice," Emeka continued, his voice echoing through the room. "I traded loyalty for power. And now you belong to them." Chioma's mind raced. She reached for the charms Baba Ebeji had given her and, in a moment of desperate clarity, flung them towards Emeka. As they hit him, the shadows recoiled, and Emeka let out a scream of rage and pain. The air seemed to vibrate as the dark presence around him began to fade. Emeka's form flickered, the shadows swirling around him like a storm. The grip that had held Chioma and Edeora loosened, and they stumbled backward. Emeka's figure dissolved into the darkness, leaving behind only the faint echo of his laughter. The house groaned as if it were alive, the walls trembling. But the oppressive feeling in the air began to lift. Chioma could feel it, the spirits were releasing her. Whatever hold Emeka had over them was broken. Breathing heavily, Chioma turned to Edeora. "We need to leave. Now." Without looking back, they rushed out of the house and into the street. The cool Lagos night air hit their faces as they escaped the cursed place, finally free from its grip. In the days that followed, Chioma began to piece her life back together. The haunting memories of Emeka and the house still lingered, but they no longer held power over her. Baba Ebeji's protective charms had done their job, and Chioma was determined never to be caught in such a web of lies again. But the experience had left her changed. She was no longer the woman who trusted blindly, no longer the woman who could be easily deceived. Lagos had shown her its dark side, and she had survived it. Late one night, as she sat on her balcony overlooking the city, her phone buzzed again. Chioma's heart skipped a beat. She hesitated for a moment before picking it up. The message read, "You can't escape the past." Chioma stared at the screen, her pulse racing. But this time, she didn't delete the message. Instead, she smiled and turned off her phone.